Thanks so much for watching News Channel Nebraska. I'm Alex Loroff, and coming up in the news this hour, we have the latest details in the case of a missing woman in Cass County. Lancaster County authorities are on the lookout for a missing woman as well, and COVID-19 vaccines will soon be coming to pharmacies around the nation. Those stories and more are coming up, but first let's take a look at your NCN AccuWeather forecast.
These days, crops are looking a little worse for wear across the state of Nebraska, as many areas are experiencing the impacts of a drought. I'm standing here in Cumming County, which is part of the Lower Elkhorn Natural Resources District, whose board last week officially declared a drought across the 15 counties that it services in northeast Nebraska, with Cumming County being one of the areas that's been hit the hardest. Niobrara Public Schools is preparing for the new school year, but a teacher may soon be preparing for a legal battle. A student from Verdigris and teacher James Parks got into a physical altercation at a school dance in February, but both sides have a slightly different version of the story. Well, more than 12 hours removed from a devastating fire that completely destroyed one of its newer buildings, work has resumed this morning at the Michael Foods plant just outside of Bloomfield here behind me. And we have some more information about the fire that took place yesterday evening right at about 5:15 p.m. as District 40 State Senator Tim Greger tells News Channel Nebraska that a friend of his was on the Creighton Volunteer Fire Department, which was on scene last night battling the blaze. Well, we are here on the Loop River Bridge in Columbus, and as you can see behind me, the water levels are still very high for the Loop River here in the town of Columbus. And as you may be able to see off in the distance, a helicopter still flying over the town of Columbus as well. We've seen as many as 4 helicopters in the sky here today, all going around that southern portion just outside of Columbus, doing individual rescues of families and homes that are in the more inundated, flooded areas just outside of town. Well, the Wood River community is continuing to prepare for the upcoming floodwaters that they are scheduled to see later on today and into tomorrow. And these are the fruits of their labor. We were out here earlier yesterday when they were in the process of building this sort of makeshift dam to try and quell the water into this area and push it out over the highway. Up along Highway 30, when you go towards Shelton, to the right side of the road, there is a lot of water that is slowly but surely making its way towards the Wood River area. And the Wood River community is hoping that this sort of setup, that this dam here, is going to stop the water from rushing north into town like it did last March. The court case stemming from last Friday's murder in Norfolk is officially underway, as 28-year-old Deshaun Gleaton made his first appearance in Madison County Court on Tuesday afternoon via video teleconference from the Madison County Jail, as he faces first-degree murder charges, among others, for the shooting death of 29-year-old Haley Christensen of Norfolk. At first glance, this may look like a pretty quiet intersection here in downtown Grand Island, but a calculated burglary took place over the weekend at the Oromex jewelry store here behind me, where police say burglars broke through the wall of the church that the jewelry store shares the building with, cut into a safe, and stole hundreds of thousands of dollars of products from the store. And police are being assisted in the investigation thanks to surveillance footage from surrounding businesses in the area. But as you can see here behind me, the smoke is not quite as extensive as it was a little bit earlier this morning. Now, the fire is still going on in this pile of tires just a little bit at this time, but it is definitely a lot more under control than it was just a couple of hours ago. However, there are still numerous fire and rescue squads at the scene at the moment. Just from looking around right now, we can see Hoskins, Norfolk, Pierce, Battle Creek, Hayter Fire and Rescue. The case of an Antelope County man facing a dozen counts of sexual assault has been continued on for yet another month, as 78-year-old Roger Stuckwish was scheduled to appear in Antelope County District Court on Wednesday for a pretrial conference, as well as for approval of miscellaneous motions. However, attorney Patrick Carney filed a little bit earlier this week to continue Wednesday's pretrial conference to a later date. An animal rights organization released a video on Thursday alleging a pattern of neglect at Summit Calf Ranch near Rising City, owned by Tull's Dairy. Animal Equality says that the undercover footage, which was compiled this past winter, shows the prolonged suffering of dozens of calves. The expansion of Highway 275 has been one of the most talked about roads projects in Nebraska over the last number of years. And while a tentative construction date has been set to create 4 lanes between the towns of Scribner and West Point, some hesitation still remains about the project. It's been an unusual school year to say the very least, as there are some schools here in Nebraska that are teaching students remotely, other schools that are allowing in-person learning, but with social distancing guidelines as well as mask mandates being put into place. And still, there are other students who are learning this school year, but just not in traditional schoolroom settings, as more and more parents here in Norfolk, as well as across the state of Nebraska, are electing to homeschool their students. And that's being shown through the enrollment numbers that Norfolk Public Schools is seeing for this school year. I'm standing at the intersection of Omaha Avenue and 37th Street in Norfolk, and while this field behind me here may not be much to write home about right now, it will be the future site of Norfolk's newest business park, with its goal being to grow the community through the jobs it will be able to create. If you live in Osmond, you're going to start to hear church bells ring a little more often, as starting Wednesday, the 3 churches in town are going to be ringing their bells at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. every day moving forward, in order to encourage the community to come together and pray for our nation during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the Aquaventure Water Park is one of Norfolk's most popular summer attractions, and with the way the weather's been the last couple of days, I'm sure we could all use a jump in a pool right about now. And as I mentioned, the new DHMs do include new regulations for gatherings at swimming pools, but obviously the Aquaventure Park is a little bit more involved than just your average swimming pool. And at this time, city staff in Norfolk have not yet made a decision on when the Aquaventure Park might be able to reopen for the summer. DHM restrictions have now been eased for many counties across Nebraska, but the city of Tilden is in a unique situation where it's a part of 2 separate counties under 2 separate directed health measures. Tilden is technically a part of both Madison and Antelope counties, with the dividing line being Highway 45 or Center Street here in town. Now, if you're standing along Highway 45 looking north and around the west side of the road, you are technically in Antelope County, which is under lessened directed health measures at this time, allowing restaurants to reopen their dining rooms under limited capacity, and hair salons can reopen as well. But if you pop over to Madison County, and bear with me for just a moment, like I said, if you pop over to Madison County, you are still under the most strict directed health measures in the state, where restaurants are not allowed to reopen their dining rooms and hair salons must remain closed as well, which could have created quite the conundrum for Tilden Mayor Leo Botsford, but he says the community has come together to take a uniform approach citywide. The summer may be winding down, but we're still getting some beautiful weather here in Nebraska, and hopping in a lake is a surefire way to cool off from the heat. However, there are a handful of lakes across the state, including the Willow Creek Lake here in Pierce County, where swimming is not permitted due to high levels of harmful algal blooms, otherwise known as toxic blue-green algae, which can have some pretty nasty effects on swimmers. When people tune in to Jim and Jenna in the Morning on US 92, normally it's broadcasted live from this studio. But due to social distancing, the show is now airing from a location that's literally closer to home.
It's 8:14, Jim and Jenna in the Morning, live from the barn.
While the weather is slowly but surely starting to warm up across Nebraska, we're starting to see the beginning stages of possible flood issues the state may be faced with once again this spring, as a section of Highway 275 eastbound between the towns of West Point and Scribner is currently closed due to an ice jam that has caused water to go across the roadway. Participants who come to each Nebraska Passport stop can either receive a physical stamp in their booklet, or they can receive a digital stamp on the Nebraska Passport app. And stamps can be collected from now until September 30th, where participants can then turn those stamps in to receive prizes. Now that I have my first one in the books, I have plenty of work to do to get as many as I can before the stamp collecting ends in September. Reporting in Albion for News Channel Nebraska, I'm Alex Loroff.
For more on those stories, you can head to our website, newschannelnebraska.com. You can also follow us on Twitter or like us on our Facebook page to keep up to date with the very latest news going on all across the state. But make sure to stay tuned, because we do have more news coming your way straight ahead here on News Channel Nebraska, along with your AccuWeather forecast. After nearly 3 hours of discussion, the fate of the Columbus mask mandate came down to one man. The City Council voted the ordinance a 4-4 tie, but Mayor Jim Bulkley exercised his right to vote in the event of a tie to pass the mandate through. For over an hour and a half, numerous Columbus residents made their voices heard about why there shouldn't be a mandate in Columbus, citing a variety of reasons for their opposition.
People in this community don't want it. Let people make their own decision. You're afraid, you're immunocompromised, wear one. But to mandate this and then have people report on each other is an alarming state for this community.
I do not believe it is right or American on any level for me to force somebody else to comply with something because I believe it to be the right thing to do.
If we go down this route, where's this going to end up? When are we going to be back here to debate a bill saying that we can't go to church, we can't go to school anymore?
There's a reason people live here instead of New York, California, Illinois, or even Lincoln and Omaha. We like to be left alone, and we don't want or need the government tinkering with our day-to-day lives.
Those in favor of the mandate included large community employers such as BD and Balin, as well as the superintendents of all 3 schools in the Columbus area. Health officials were also on hand at Tuesday's meeting, detailing how the recent surge in cases has impacted healthcare.
Over the last 5 to 6 weeks, we've been running 25 patients roughly, and we're no longer able to necessarily transfer patients who are becoming critically ill.
Because masks work, they have kept our clinics and our hospital open and staffed. They have allowed our students to return to school for in-person learning where we know they learn best. And they are an essential intervention for keeping businesses, both small and large, open and staffed.
The ordinance will go into effect this Friday, with violators having to pay a fine of $25, and it's expected to expire February 23rd, 2021, unless extended by the City Council. Reporting in Columbus, I'm Alex Loroff, News Channel, Nebraska. The Santee Sioux Nation gathered together on Monday to celebrate their past and look towards their future. Monday marked the celebration of Native Day in Santee, which included a pandemic parade, native dances, and traditional native hand games. The day allowed the Santee people to reflect on their history while also focusing on the youth that will be the future of the tribe.
Today we are acknowledging all our youth on this reservation and all those that went before us, the ancestors of this continent. Anybody aware of history knows when the Europeans came to this continent, the move was to civilize our people. And by doing that, the United States and missionaries would move to Christianize them. And so their language was forbidden. Their customs were forbidden. We are endangered today. We are acknowledging all of who we are today with our language, with our prayers, with our prayer songs, our social songs.
The celebration came amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, and while Thomas says it has been tough on the people of Santee, she's happy that the nation's leaders have helped to keep the community safe.
We do have a COVID-19 task force. They've done all they could to keep the people safe, including our children. And I believe as you're standing here right now, there are no positive COVIDs on this reservation.
Reporting in Santee, I'm Alex Loroff, News Channel, Nebraska.